Hello everyone, welcome to the 5-Minute Discovery channel. Let's explore the interesting story of Cuba, a land famous for its miracles that will make you unable to take your eyes off. Cuba, County Bar, is a place that brings you surprising experiences and irresistible appeal. Immerse yourself in this adventure now to feel the unique beauty of this country, where history, culture and national identity blend into a wonderful scene. If you feel or miss, please like and subscribe to the channel to support me. The largest island in the Caribbean, Cuba, is not only an enchanting destination but also a challenge of exploration. With a length of up to 1,200 kilometers and a narrow but interesting width, Cuba is an archipelago of more than 3,500 different islands, creating a large geographical volume in the heart of the Caribbean Sea. Cuba is located only about 150 kilometers from Florida in the US, but still retains its special cultural and historical identity. With a population of about 11.5 million, Cuba is proud of the origin of its name, which comes from an indigenous language meaning, the land that began. Named in the late 15th century after a Spanish prince, Cuba has long marked the region's history and culture. The first records of Cuba are part of a story of development and discovery, making the listener feel like they're lost in a world full of intrigue and mystery. Cuba, with its majestic natural beauty and rich cultural diversity, awaits those who want to explore and learn more about this country. Cuba is a country with a unique diversity of natural environments, from vast grasslands to meandering forests and even tiny deserts. Each ecosystem here is home to unique flora and fauna, some of which cannot be found anywhere else on Earth. In the jungles of Cuba, you can encounter amazing creatures like hummingbirds, the world's smallest birds at only about 5 centimeters long. The most special thing is the mountain frog, with a body only 1 centimeter long, living in Cuba and is the smallest frog on the planet. These facts highlight the specialness and appeal of Cuba, a place where nature still holds mysteries and indescribable beauty. Cuba's history since Christopher Columbus discovered it in the late 15th and early 16th centuries is full of pain and turmoil. After Spanish forces defeated the natives, they declared sovereignty and began a period of fierce annexation. The Spanish colonized the indigenous people of Cuba, and as a result, many of them died from manual labor or diseases brought by the Spaniards without immunity. The following century saw hundreds of thousands of slaves from Africa brought to Cuba to participate in exploitation, mainly growing and harvesting sugarcane, one of the country's famous products. These historical events are not just stories of invasion and occupation, but also stories of struggle, endurance and survival of the affected communities. Cuba, with a rich and complex past, still retains clear traces of historical ups and downs, making listeners unable to help but feel intrigued and curious about its culture and people of this country. Cuba's modern world history is marked by important and unexpected events. After American forces helped Cuba expel the Spanish, the country experienced its famous revolution in 1959, with the strong leadership of Fidel Castro. This revolution completely changed both Cuba's politics and society. With a revolutionary vision and ideal of social reform, Fidel Castro and his companions aroused strong national pride and patriotism in the Cuban people. That revolution is not only a historical event but also a symbol of a nation's perseverance and efforts to rise. From its hopeful early days to its later challenges and controversies, Cuba has maintained its distinct character and unique cultural strength. The story of Cuba is a measure of growth and innovation, a journey filled with emotion and inspiration. Cuba is not only a country with a beautiful geography but also a rich culture, converging from many different civilizations. Ever since Christopher Columbus arrived in this country at the end of the 15th century, he was captivated by the brilliant beauty of the 3 beautiful colors of red soil, blue sea and blue sky. Cuba's culture is a unique harmony, combining traditional characteristics of peoples from Europe, Africa, and the Americas with indigenous civilizations. This country is known for its vibrant music and typical dances such as son, rumba and especially cha-cha-cha, contributing to the unique and attractive culture of Cuba. Havana Festival is a symbol of the splendor and excitement of Cuba on the world map. Different from other countries in the region, the most popular sport in Cuba is not soccer but baseball. Baseball came to Cuba from America in the late 19th century and has flourished, producing many international stars. Cuba also boasts a high average life expectancy and a literacy rate of almost 99.9%, proving the country's intellectual and educational development. With its unique characteristics and cultural richness, Cuba is an attractive and emotional destination, captivating those who have the opportunity to explore and understand more about the country's unique culture. About education. Education in Cuba is provided free of charge to all citizens, but when it comes to the internet, the situation is completely different. Since 2018, most public places in Cuba have provided high-speed Wi-Fi access, but having internet at home is still a luxury. Personal internet service remains expensive, costing up to $1 per hour of use, making it a luxury for most people. Meanwhile, young people in Cuba seek other entertainment activities such as watching movies from CDs or copying from USBs, because internet access is expensive and not as easy to come by as it is for many people who don't. Accessible. A month of internet use in Cuba can cost between $17 and $30, a significant cost for the average person's income. Despite improvements in internet services from 2005 to 2007, forecasts for the future still show that this number could increase to around $40, but still a modest number compared to many other countries. This situation represents a dark side of economic and technological development in Cuba, making listeners feel discontent and curious about the disparities and challenges that Cuban people face. The story of Cuban cigars is one of the most fascinating stories about the culture and history of this country. Cuban cigars, also known as Havana cigars, have grown to become a symbol of high quality known around the world. Although many other countries also grow and produce cigars, Cuban cigars are still considered a special product, produced entirely by hand. Cuba has outstanding advantages in terms of geography and natural conditions, which makes their cigars different. Unique production secrets, passed down through generations, along with the dedication and skills of artisans create the special quality of Cuban cigars. Cigar factories in Cuba are not only places of production but also become attractive tourist destinations, where visitors can explore the process of creating famous cigars. The history of Cuban cigars is also rich. Ever since Christopher Columbus arrived in Cuba, he discovered tobacco and its charm. This made Cuban tobacco a valuable and widely exported commodity in the 17th century, when farms and tobacco factories flourished across the country. Despite historical challenges, such as the embargo from the US in 1962, Cuban cigars still maintain their position and continue to be popular around the world. The expectations and sophistication in creating cigars have become an art, and quintessence of blending tradition and creativity. The story of Cuban cigars is not only about a consumer product but also about the culture, passion and perseverance of the Cuban people. It is a story full of inspiration and historical value, that everyone wants to hear and explore more deeply. The story of Cuba's sugarcane is an integral part of the country's culture and economy. Previously, Cuba was the leader in sugarcane exports to the world, before this position was transferred to Brazil. This sugarcane plant is native to the Americas, and has been present since the time Columbus discovered the Caribbean and Americas. Sugarcane is not only a common crop but also a symbol of sweetness and coolness. Columbus was the one who helped sugarcane become an important product in the economies of American countries, especially Cuba. It not only provides people with sweet sugarcane but is also the source of sugar, an important product known since the 16th century. In 2011, we mentioned a little about the history of sugar and it continues. Tradition associated with the explorer Columbus, when coming to the Americas and the Caribbean, there was no tree with a very sweet and cool woody stem, and that was sugarcane. In fact, the sugarcane tree has existed for a long time. Sugarcane was first discovered in the world in 510 BC, but Columbus was the one who made sugarcane a staple in K-pop countries, including Cuba and Canada. The value of sugarcane only really became higher when people found ways to refine sugar from sugarcane. That's what the Indians did, and in the middle of the 16th century, they even called it white-yellow sugarcane. The history of Cuban sugarcane is also closely linked to the development of the economy and politics. Previously, the Cuban government established a management agency called the Ministry of Sugar to manage and protect the sugar industry. However, in 2011, the agency was dissolved, ending a period of direct management from the government. Sugarcane is not only a crop, but also a symbol of Cuba's wealth and economic development. From early exploration efforts to modern sugar refining technologies, sugarcane has contributed significantly to the life and culture of this country. The story of Cuban sugarcane is one of fascinating history, showing the deep connection between people and land, and making listeners want to explore this country more deeply. Cuba is a destination not to be missed with unique vintage cars, a unique feature of this country. With about 50,000 classic cars in circulation since the early 20th century, Cuba is truly a mobile museum of these cars. Antique cars are not only a means of transportation but also a part of culture, a symbol of the perseverance and creativity of the Cuban people. Owning and maintaining a classic car in Cuba is not simple. Due to the embargo, importing new cars into Cuba is almost impossible, and this has made classic cars extremely valuable and expensive. This also explains why classic cars still operate impressively and are loved by people. However, owning a classic car in Cuba also poses many challenges. Repairing and replacing parts becomes extremely difficult, because there are not many options and replacement parts have to be obtained from other cars. This is interesting and makes using a car unique in Cuba. The story of vintage cars in Cuba is not just about transportation but also about human creativity and effort. It's a story about self-taught auto mechanics and the close interaction between people and vintage cars. The sight of these cars gliding through the colorful streets of Havana or small coastal towns is an indelible image in the hearts of Cuba lovers. Furthermore, the opening to a small number of new cars since 2013 has added diversity to Cuba's car landscape, although it is still very limited and not accessible to everyone. With an average income per person of only about $40 a month, owning a classic car in Cuba is a luxury dream for the majority of the population. With these special things, Cuba offers a colorful and attractive travel experience. It is not only about the historical and cultural heritage, but also about the creative and lively people. Hopefully one day, you will also have the opportunity to set foot in this beautiful land and discover more about what Cuba has brought to the world. Thank you for listening. If you feel good, remember to like and subscribe to support the channel. Hello and see you again.